All right, welcome YouTubers. GreatDanePicks.com 2019 NBA results. These are paid results this time, not free. And I haven't given out a synopsis in a while, mostly because I haven't been doing well. Or at least one of my systems is not doing well, my primary system. So I've got a graph out here. I'm ending the fourth session. Normally I used to do this. I do it a little different this year. Ended up just doing contiguous, but in previous years I would do sessions and I would cut off at, if I make 10% profit, I would cut off, and then I'd have some stop gaps on the losses. So trying something a little different this year. I'll supplement it with the web page in a little bit here, but let's look at the two lines. Well, there are more than two lines. This is the 20,000 bankroll number that I start with. I bet more than that in real life, but per $20,000 in bankroll, and you can scale this up and down, I make 10% bets or $2,000 bets, so pretty aggressive on the bet number, which means you can either crash or go large. Trying to make numbers on the system, hit my 60% win rate or whatever, which will give me a large yield, ROI. So the black line is my primary system. It's the third game in a martingale, so the team would have to lose two prior games after I identified that they would be a value team, or at least a value team coming in the third game. The blue line is what I call it the first game, but really it's the second game of the martingale, and my primary is the third game of the martingale. So I've got drastically different results between the two. Usually you play a lot more on my first game, blue line here, than I do on my primary system, because I would have to lose. Only the losers go on to the primary system from there. So in the first session, first of all, it was an odd session because almost the first week I didn't have a bet at all. That's kind of abnormal. Starting on January 13th, I went up like 7%, right? Not even 10% was my high in the session. And I'd given a summary at the end of session one. We were on course to do well. Well, session two, which are these, each one of these is a week in the vertical plane here, vertical lines, is that I got out to here, I lost some, and then normally I would have stop-gapped at this 14,000 mark-ish. In other words, I would have lost 6,000 for the session, but in my contiguous, it continued to just barrel and drop. It's one of the downs of picking crappy teams, and I'm not going to blame them. I'll blame me. But like San Antonio Spurs, I think at one point went like 9 or 10 straight against the spread losses, which is a little difficult because against the spread should be a 50-50 coin flip. It's like getting 9 tails. Not impossible, but certainly that helped drive me all the way down here. So I lost an extra 2, 4, 6, 8,000 over what I might have normally stop-gapped here. And then at the beginning of session 3, you see there was some winning and losing overall. But I didn't play. I got to this point and I kind of stopped. I said, man, I'm really, really losing. So I didn't play these red lines, which ended up being 2 wins and a loss. So I'm down, let's see, that would have been 3,600 minus 2,000, 1,600. So I'm even lower than these lines. I'm 1,600 lower than this black line. Minus the fact that these blacks and blue lines have head-to-heads. So overall on my primary system, I've had 4 head-to-heads that I don't play, and that would give me, each head-to-head is worth $182, almost $200. So 700 is the actual number higher than this black line. It's because I don't go figure out head-to-head, and maybe at the end of the year I'll put a graph together that does it otherwise. But I'm just picking teams, and if 2 head-to-heads come, then obviously don't play those because you just lose $182 in most cases. Been a lot more head-to-heads on the first game results up here in the blue. They're actually $2,000 lower today than what you would be at, but nonetheless, no excuses. So I lost out on 1,600 there. But I did start playing here and go up and then down a little bit, right, on this session. And the fourth session has been pretty good, been making a comeback. I did at this point here I happened to have like 4 picks that game, so that day, so it was $8,000 of bets, and you can see I'm below the $8,000 level, which means I had to dig a couple thousand actually into my negative into the above bankroll. So now my bankroll calculation will have to come off a higher number than 20,000. For ROI, should I ever make it back to zero? And I was along the way here. I did spring back this session and then come back down, and I'm here. A couple more games, I think, since then. I've been splitting. So yeah, somewhere around 11,000 if you played every game. I'm a little bit low, just below the 10,000, so 50% loss, not ROI, not where I want to be. So we'll see if this will stabilize and come back and go above and at least break even for the year, or maybe make a tiny profit. Like if I make 10% or something, or 20%, so be it. But I'm not going to make my 50% or whatnot. Now the blue line is the first pick. So like I said, that's it usually doesn't do quite as well on ROI because you play a lot more games. It's for people who maybe like a lot more action. Not that I play a lot of games in either system. You can't play a lot of games and make money. But there was a preseason release for people who had the Excel files, and like I said, between the preseason and this early start, this could have was like, I don't know what it was, 70% ROI or something, 6-1 in the preseason, and then like, I don't know, 15-8 or whatever it was, the ROI. But even without the preseason, just starting on the 13th, you see we jumped up, and normally I would have froze at this point of the session and not lost this extra money, or a little bit of it. And the second session was another positive. Established each one of these dots as like a new high. So in the second session, I came from here, from zero down to a new high. If you replicate, so that would have doubled it. Depending on when you got out and when you didn't. And the third session, again, we got highs, and eventually I hit like 57% ROI here. That would have been good for the year. That's another opportunity to be out for the year. Now I had a huge plunge, and that's what sometimes happens in these systems. When you're making the more games, the more you can plunge, the more streaky, right, you can be. But I also struck right back and eventually hit another high. So if you rode this high up somehow in session 4, which would have started here, you can see you had an opportunity. Probably would have got out at some point here where you just make some money. But ultimately, I'm at 74% high, and then I kind of flashed back down with some recent wins and losses. It doesn't take too many games to get back down, losing 2,000 a game. It's only 1, 2, 3, 4 games to get back to here. Give or take, right, with some wins in there. So we'll see if this ever comes. It did come back down to 0, and then it went up again, and maybe it'll come back down to 0 again. I normally expect this black line to end above the blue line, but we'll see if we're counteractive today. So that's where we are after the 4th session. Normally I'm done for the year on the NBA by now, but I'm going to have to continue to play in the 5th and 6th session and try to get my money back. But I'm out of a little bit of harm's way unless I go on a big losing streak again. Just not losing half my money right now, which is a problem, right? But that's why we play. It's high risk, high reward. So I'm going to blank out because this is the paid website. If you don't have the Excel file and where we are on the 12th, no big deal. But I just wanted to quickly see if there's anything worthwhile in this. Again, session 1, I was a high 7-4, 3-2, that type of stuff. So not a lot. First game players are up 23% at that particular point. There's a lot of DNPs or do not plays. In other words, they were head-to-heads, right? So I did have a DNP where they pushed somewhere, but that doesn't count at all. Just counting the DNPs where there was a result, net win, net loss, and you won't play both sides. First game players had 29% ROI. We're in, what session are we in? The second session. Second session ended 6-12 on my regular. 26-23. This is where I took the breaks, and I had 2 wins and a loss when I took breaks. First game players, 57% ROI, also 57% win rate, or plus 11,000 in profit. DNP. And this third session, I was 9-15, so again, 6 games down, terrible. 39-35, so not so far much, but that's where I made that big run in the 4th. One point I was a 50-38 record on the first game, 74.5. We can double verify that. Let me just put 50-38 in my ROI calculator. So that's plus 14,900, 74.5% ROI, and a 57% win rate. Almost. Cooled off a little bit after that, obviously. I did have a push on this day that technically is a push, but I actually won in the real world because it was a +2 when I was getting +3. A lot of the lines were typically above what covers. Again, covers.com is where I pull this official data from. You may usually get a little bit better than covers sometimes, but sometimes covers is really far off. Not often, just 1 or 2 games a year, but if it happens to be a game I'm playing, that's where I get so I was actually 18 higher, right, than what I was. Kind of brings me back more in line with the lines on the chart, other than the DNPs that are on the chart. So I ended 20 and 23, sub 500, and 58 and 48 on session. You can see I've done a couple, little win, little loss. I'm now currently, as of the 11th, which I know I'm in the session 5, I'm 21 and 25, still 4 games down. 61 and 50, right? So what's 61 and 50? It's not a high, that's for sure. Yeah, 54%. Now you should have been out. Should have been out for the year. Anyways, I just want to give the status, see where we are, keep going. Hopefully we'll recover on that chart. Hopefully both will continue to recover. But if you're playing first game, I'd be very, very leery. Not that this could have duplicated over itself and been over 100% if you took cutoffs on certain levels or whatever it was. Anyways, that's the status where I'm at. Not doing well, but look forward to getting this done with and hopefully closing the gap and get back to 0. That's what I'm really trying to do today. So, been good talking to you. I just wanted to get the status updated there. And like I said, after this, MLB will be rolling pretty close to around that April. Usually about 10 games into the MLB season, I'll be trying to determine some winners there too, all right? So make contact with me if you have to, or otherwise, have a good day. See ya.